Hi, I'm Caroline Hayes and I'm Head of History. So at GCSE we study 4 topics. We study Germany, crime and punishment through time, American West and Elizabethan England. So they get a good understanding of that range of topics. We look at Germany as a depth study, so they're looking at quite a short period of time. Same thing with the American West and Elizabeth, so you're looking at that in some intense detail. The crime and punishment one takes it through from 1000 up until the modern day, looking at a number of different strands, which allows them to get a sense of the sort of social, economic and political history and how it entwines over a longer period of time, as opposed to the sort of moments in history that we look at with the other ones. The skills that you can gain from the subject are very wide and very varied, and what's good about them is they're quite transferable skills. So in terms of thinking about the sort of main skills that we look at, you have things like investigation, you have source analysis, you have comprehension in terms of being able to read and pull out information. You're able to start thinking about the sort of reliability of sources, about why people say the things that they do. And really it's the concept of a good study ethic as well, being able to sort of put attention into something and to be able to kind of pull out answers and explore your past and sort of come to decisions and conclusions about those things, which are skills that are good for historians but are also very useful in many other subjects that you might want to take and go on to take later on as well. I think the thing that I've noticed about history, and certainly my own study of it and then going to university and onwards, is that obviously it sets you up for a sort of career moving forward in history and many different sort of aspects of that. But actually what I did notice is it's a bit of a gateway subject to other subjects as well. So when I was at university, I obviously went on and did history, but I had friends who studied history at university and they've gone on to become journalists, lawyers, bankers, accountants, you know, sort of gone into PR and things like that. It's more the kind of that studious attitude that you get. And the sort of skills that I've talked about, you know, if you think about what a journalist needs, you know, that idea of being investigative, being able to, you know, write up your answers well, being able to support what you're saying, those things are really kind of useful skills to have. If you think about lawyers, that idea of, you know, it's not all just standing up in front of court, you've got to know the history of the laws that you're talking about, you've got to be, you know, willing to go and sort of dig around and find out the precedents and things like that. So those sort of skills can be really useful in that sort of respect. So the subject is examined purely by exam now. They no longer have a coursework element, and I think that's actually much better for our students, to be honest. There are 3 papers in which we do the 4 topics. So in the first paper you will do your crime and punishment exam, which has a depth study on Whitechapel, which is where we look at sort of crime and punishment element in that area at the end of the 19th century. So it's looking at the poverty, it's looking at why that led to crime, why it was so difficult to deal with crime, and we do an in-depth study on Jack the Ripper as well, which a lot of students seem to enjoy. And then we have on paper 2, we do our American West and our Elizabethan. And then on paper 3 we do Germany, which is a source-based paper, so it's looking at a lot of the skills that you use for source analysis and understanding the reliability and usefulness of sources and things like that. So one of the most popular aspects tends to be the trip, as you know, you tend to find. We take them to London and we do it as a residential now. We take them to a number of different places which all tie into their study of the subject. We take them to the Tower of London where they get to look around, and that ties into our sort of Tudor and medieval study of crime and punishment. We do a Jack the Ripper walk, which ties into the sort of industrial policing. We sort of follow in his footsteps. And we have some brilliant sort of presenters who do that, so we have people who come in and do that. We go to the Clink prison, which is one of the earliest prisons in sort of London and recognised as a sort of holding place, and that's always very atmospheric. And we go to the London dungeons, which tends to be very popular with the students and tends to have a lot of screaming and overexcitement. So that's a really good trip and it ties in really nicely. In terms of the subject itself, I think students tend to really enjoy the crime and punishment topic because of the nature of it and sort of the fact that it can be quite relevant to them because it comes right up to the modern day. They can kind of see how you start and how it moves through and how it leads to where we've got to today. And you by taking it all the way through, I think that's quite fascinating for them. Students tend to like the American West because it's a bit sort of cowboys and things like that. So there is that element that they really enjoy. And again, I think in a sort of less sort of jovial way, they are quite interested in the sort of the Nazi Germany element as well, because you've got that, you know, quite a sort of modern context to that, and it's still quite a relevant context today. We're looking at, you know, how that happened and how it was able to happen, how he was able to get away with the things that he did. So I think students sort of are quite, you know, interested to see how that sort of thing can come about. So I think there, you know, again, it depends on the nature of the student. You tend to find people tend to like different areas of history. You know, so you tend to see people like medievalists, or, you know, like the Tudor early modern period or modern. And what I like about the course that we put together is I think it allows everyone to find a bit of something that they're going to enjoy if they take the subject.